Welcome back to another Forge College Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining us today. Right now, we're putting your smart contracts on the diagnostic test bench as a really crucial part of our runtime constraints and optimizations module, which sits within the wider from EVM to SVM track. Up until now, we've talked a whole lot about theory, we've looked at exactly how different architectures function under the hood. But today, we're rolling up our sleeves. We're going to bridge that gap between understanding abstract runtime constraints and actually implementing highly effective architecture-specific optimizations. So let's dive right into this. So I want you to start by asking yourself this question. Why is your smart contract secretly burning so much money? Seriously, think of poorly optimized code as this mysterious, totally invisible leak in your highly engineered blueprints. It's just quietly burning gas on Ethereum or compute units on Solana when you aren't even looking. Now, it might work perfectly fine in a simple local test, but the moment you actually scale it up, those invisible inefficiencies compound into a massive financial drain for your users. And in Web3, inefficient code literally costs real money every single time it's executed. We have to find that leak. Now, before we start hunting for leaks, let's do a super quick recap. In our previous lesson, we established the theoretical rules of the system, basically how the EVM and SVM architectures charge differently for execution. We learned that the EVM's cost models bill at the opcode and gas level, which heavily penalizes certain types of storage interactions. On the flip side, the SVM, Solana's architecture, ties its runtime cost to compute units and syscalls. That completely changes which operations become expensive in practice. So now it's time to turn those abstract rules into concrete code investigations. We are officially moving from accounting to optimizing.
All right, here's our blueprint for today's lab experiment. Number 1, an intro to profiling. 2, instruction versus syscall profiling. 3, setting up a test bench. 4, finding hot paths. 5, applying targeted optimizations. And finally, 6, measuring the impact.
Okay, part 1, intro to profiling. Time to become code detectives. Listen, you simply cannot optimize what you can't measure. Guessing where your contract is slow? That's just a fantastic way to waste engineering hours. We need hard data, and to get that, we profile for the hot path. A hot path is really just a specific execution route in your workload that consumes the absolute highest proportion of resources. It's the massive traffic jam in your logic. Finding the hot path is like finding the exact pipe that's leaking all your water, because once you know where it is, fixing it becomes infinitely easier. Moving right along to part 2, instruction versus syscall. Let's look at the metrics for each architecture. Before we start taking measurements, we actually need to know what metric we're looking at, because, let's face it, the EVM and the SVM do not speak the same language at all. On the EVM side, instruction-level profiling is kind of like checking every single tiny gear in a watch. You are literally counting opcodes and tracking microscopic gas usage. But on the SVM side, syscall-level profiling is way more like measuring the power drawn by a whole engine. A perfectly optimized EVM contract might be absolutely terrible on the SVM simply because they punish totally different computational behaviors. Part 3. Setting up your test bench for isolated offline labs. To catch our culprits, we have to set up a repeatable offline benchmarking script using Node.js. We want total isolation here so network latency doesn't pollute our data. The structure is beautifully simple. First up, the warm-up phase. Because, hey, you definitely want to warm up before a marathon so your validator doesn't pull a digital hamstring, right? This essentially stabilizes the caches. Next, we take a baseline measurement by running the code 20 to 50 times. And finally, after we tweak the code, we run an optimized measurement to actually see the difference. To really put our test bench to work, we're going to feed 2 specific types of minimal driver programs into it. First, a compute-bound loop. This one is super heavy on arithmetic and memory reads. Second, a state-bound operation, which heavily reads and writes storage or account data. By separating these 2 things, we can trigger representative operations without any external network variability. Plus, we can clearly see exactly how the EVM and SVM react differently to pure math versus pure state storage. Which brings us to part 4, finding those hot paths by analyzing our log data. Once our script runs those baseline measurements, it spits out the raw evidence we need. No more guessing. By examining this nice, clean CSV logbook, we can spot exactly which operations are spiking our metric values. If you look closely at the metric value column, you'll easily see the anomalies. Maybe the state-bound operation on your EVM run is consuming an astronomical amount of gas, or perhaps your SVM compute units are just maxing out. This data right here, this is your treasure map to the hot path leak.
Okay, part 5, targeted optimizations. It's time to engineer the fix.
Now that we've found the leak on our blueprint, it's time to patch it up. Knowing the code is expensive is only half the battle. The real engineering is bypassing those bottlenecks entirely. The crucial point here is choosing the right weapon for the job. We generally categorize these into local micro-optimizations, like, say, changing a data type, versus architectural workarounds, which might mean completely redesigning how your contract handles data from the ground up. But a universal rule, regardless of whether you're on EVM or SVM, is minimizing state access. Caching a value in memory instead of reading it from storage multiple times can drastically, and I mean drastically, reduce your instruction count or syscall frequency. And finally, part 6, measuring the impact to actually prove our fix worked.
Because an engineer's job is never done until the fix is proven, right? So we run the optimized code right back through our test bench. Did our little micro-optimization actually save gas? Well, look at that beautiful drop in resource consumption. This is exactly why we profile. You have your super high baseline on the left and your new, much lower optimized metric on the right. It definitively proves our targeted optimization successfully patched the leak. You can take this data directly to your team and confidently say, hey, I just saved us 40% in execution costs.
To wrap this whole thing together, profiling really is the ultimate translator. By using lightweight profiling, we successfully transitioned from merely understanding constraints in theory to actually implementing highly effective, architecture-specific optimizations. We converted abstract cost signals into measurable hotspots in concrete code. You now have the exact methodology to diagnose, treat, and verify the performance of your smart contracts on both the EVM and the SVM.
So, I'm going to leave you with this question to ponder. What hidden hot paths are lurking in your own smart contracts right now? It might just be time to build your own test bench and find out for sure. Thank you so much for joining this Forge College Explainer. If you want to learn more about setting up your own test bench, mastering runtime optimization, or exploring a whole lot of other fascinating Web3 topics, absolutely go check out our website at forge.college. Keep building, keep optimizing, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.